the effort of constantly trying to connect to people I think comes from an insecurity, but it's turned into something positive. If I doubt myself, maybe it's better never to try anything. A lot of young people have this problem. They have a negative attitude where they think that, well, if I don't do anything, if I just be a slacker, at least I won't fail, and I can kind of make myself feel better that I'm the best slacker that there is. You know, if you don't try too hard, you're never going to fail. You're never going to have the pain of failure. Hard to say. It's like choosing between your children as your favorite child. You know, it's the latest, so it is very proud of it. But the thing was, I've been for over 20 years, been writing these books. So massive amounts of research and reading, but also consulting work with people in business and other areas. So I've gathered a lot of intelligence or knowledge about people and what makes them tick. And I've seen a lot of mistakes that I've made and other people have made. So this is sort of the distillation of all of my years of research and all the things I've experienced. Well, I'm very insecure.
Really?
Yeah, but I try and turn it into something positive. Meaning when I finish a book, I don't really know if it's that good or if it's going to be successful. I'm very worried that I'm not connecting to the reader, to the audience. And so what that does for me, I never kind of rest. I'm never comfortable. I never assume, wow, this is a masterpiece, it's going to do really well. And so when I'm writing the book, and it's been in all my books, I'm thinking very, very deeply about the reader. How's the reader going to assimilate this information? Will it help him or her? Will it strike a chord? Will it resonate with their life? Will they think of people that they know? So I'm trying to connect very, very deeply to the reader. Because I'm insecure, because I don't take them for granted. I think where a lot of writers and people go wrong is they believe in their own myth. They believe that what they've written is so good, or that they don't have to make that effort to connect to people. You know, a lot of professors or experts or people who are in a very specific field, they assume that their knowledge is, you know, that other people know what they know. And they kind of talk down to the reader. And I never try to talk down to the reader. I try to elevate the conversation. You know, I kind of grew up that way. My parents were not the type to coddle me or to say, "You're great, Robert," or if it came home with straight A's, it's like, so what? But oh, you can always do better. Yeah, it's kind of a Jewish thing, I have to say. So I never felt secure about my work. Maybe when I was younger, you know, I tried to write. I tried many different forms of writing. I tried writing novels. I think in my 20s, I was a little more grandiose. I believed that what I was writing was really great, and it wasn't. It kind of sucked. So it's been a process of also getting over that kind of youthful exuberance and, you know, taking more time and thinking more deeply about what you're doing. But I have a lot of insecurities. I mean, that's one of them. But probably the source, to get back to your first question, the source of my insecurity is I kind of have a desire to please people, to impress them. I'm just being very honest here. And this probably went back to very early on, so I've always wanted to get the best grades and be the best pupil in the class. But there's a weakness in that. It seems great, you're getting straight A's, you're doing well in sports, etc. But there's actually an insecurity, a self-doubt, where you're trying to please people and maybe you go a little extra hard. So in that sense, compensating for your insecurities in that way can be a positive thing. So my insecurity by itself could destroy me, in that I would never get the effort up to write a book or do something. Because if I doubt myself, maybe it's better never to try anything. A lot of young people have this problem. They have a negative attitude where they think that, well, if I don't do anything, if I just be a slacker, at least I won't fail, and I can kind of make myself feel better that I'm the best slacker that there is. You know, if you don't try too hard, you're never going to fail. You're never going to have the pain of failure. That's the negative side of insecurity. But it can also motivate you to try even harder, to actually get work done, and to make it something really great, and to doubt yourself constantly, which is how I kind of use that. Yeah, I mean, it probably, you know, we can get to this, I had a stroke a couple months ago. Probably is what led to this, and is not a necessarily good thing, but I worked so hard on this book, and I was thinking, how can I make this more accessible? Because a lot of the information I had was from kind of heavy sources, like psychologists, people who were psychoanalysts who've studied human nature very deeply, and they use a lot of jargon and you can't really figure out exactly what they're saying. And I want to make it readable for the average reader out there. So the effort of constantly trying to connect to people is, I think, comes from an insecurity, but it's turned into something positive. You could have a choice of not writing the book and never having this physical problem. I would have chosen writing the book because I have maybe physically crippled a little bit and I'll get over it, but I have this for the rest of my life. I can feel really good about myself. I could die tomorrow and I know that I wrote what I wanted to create.
Wow.
I expressed what my life was meant to express. So that's a great feeling, that even in the worst depression I could have with my body not responding the way I want, I can feel a great deal of pride that I actually got this thing done and it didn't kill me. Well, you know, you'd think I would have, because I exercise every day. I swim. I mean, I'm a fanatic. Even now with my stroke, I'm exercising every day aerobically, and eat well, and I meditate, and I do everything right. But it still led to this. Yeah, it's a good question. I think my next book, because I am getting older and this happened, I'm going to have to kind of find a better way to do it a little bit. To still write something shorter with a lot of work, but not maybe take 5 years. In the ambulance on the way home from the hospital, I had an idea for my next book. Well, it's very primitive. I've not really totally developed it, but it's about how the bad things in life, how negative things are actually, I mean, it's similar to Ryan's book, but it's a different spin on it. How you actually learn more from the negative than the positive. Like you learn, I thought in the ambulance back home, I thought of all of the people I knew who'd handle adversity terribly. I'm not going to name names, some of them are related to me, who handle adversity really badly. And I thought, I don't want to be them. And as I thought about that, I thought, there's something interesting in that thought, like who I don't want to be. We never think like that, but it's actually very interesting. And it's also getting in touch with learning from your bad experiences, but also it's kind of a book about negativity. And I know that sounds really bad and negative, but how we're so attached to what we see in life, to what's in front of us, to what the appearances people have, to their masks they wear. And I want you to think of what isn't there, what you're not seeing, what's invisible. I kind of go into it in the chapter about generations and trends in society. And all my books, I'm trying to tell people, don't accept what you see with your eyes. Look for something deeper. What is the meaning behind this? If you're planning strategy or making a big decision in your life, what is it that you're not considering? So it's kind of about negative space. I know it's very primitive, but I can promise you I'll turn it into something. That's how you have to profit from your losses. I do that with things I've written that didn't quite work out. I've written books that I had to completely rewrite that were dead ends, like the 50 Cent book. I had a version of that book that we did together that wasn't working at all. And I learned a lot from what I did wrong there. I learned, for instance, the problem of that book in its first version was that I wasn't being myself. I was trying to please him more. And I've learned to always sort of be myself, but I had to learn that by trying to be someone else. Yeah. The most important thing is to realize that determining people's character is the most important thing that you have to do in judging them. So normally, you think if someone's very charming, that's great, or if they're really good looking, or if they're very successful. So if we're looking, let's say we're looking for a business partner, or a romantic partner, or a colleague to work with, we're going to base our decision on those kinds of appearances. Like people can be very good at deceiving you with being very charming and flattering, or they have a brilliant resume, and you'll be seduced by that. And what you want to do, the first step in that law, is to say, no, that's not how I'm going to judge people. My main value is their character and the strength of their character. And character is something from deep, deep, deep within. The word character comes from the Greek kairos, which means to carve. And character is something really deeply carved inside the person. It's who they are at their core. It creates patterns of behavior that they can't even really control. It's who they are genetically. It's who they are from the early values of their parents. So you want to connect to that. You want to see that. It's not immediately visible to you because people will disguise their character. You want to see that and you want to value it more than anything else. And what you want are people with strong character. And what that means is people, they have an expression for metal, they call it tensile, where metal is stronger if it can give a little bit. And because if something is too rigid, it breaks. So you want people who are adaptable, who can be fluid, who aren't weak, because that metal isn't weak, who have an inner strength and a core to them, but they can bend, they can learn, they can adapt, they can change. You want to see people who are empathetic, who know how to get along with other people. So if you have two people to choose and one has a glittering resume, but the other person understands human nature and is pure in a social sense and can also has a good work ethic, you choose that other person. You don't choose necessarily the person with that glittering resume in judging their character. Because people reveal themselves in the past. They reveal who they are through their action. They try and disguise it, but they reveal it. So I say in that chapter, nobody ever does anything once. So let's say you have a friend who does something kind of nasty to you. They talk behind your back. Then they'll say, oh, Robert, that was just, something came over, that isn't me. You know, I'm sorry about that, that just happened. It was circumstances made me do that. And you'll be likely to believe them. But the fact is, if they've done that once, they've probably done it many times. If people gossip and you hear them gossiping about other people, they'll probably eventually gossip about you. So you want to be able to look at people's patterns and look at their past and see trends and understand that if they've done certain things in the past, they will continue to do them because we humans have compulsive behavior. We are compelled to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. At the end of every chapter, I show you how you can turn this potentially negative quality into a positive quality. So when it comes to you and your own patterns, you have to first realize that you have these patterns before you can even begin to break them. Yeah, honesty. This is a book about awareness and being honest with yourself. If you don't admit that you have these patterns, then you can't possibly break them. I know in writing books, I have terrible, terrible patterns. Well, stressing so much over things that aren't that important. Obsessing. I take note cards for everything that I read, all my research, and I take way too much information. I have like thousands of them. I'm writing. I have to stop, and I say, stop being such a perfectionist. It's like you're wasting your time. It's been book after book after book. I'm very aware of it, and I'm very aware of breaking that pattern. But you have to see it and be honest with yourself in order to break it, you know? Right. So that's the first step, is seeing the pattern, and then not struggling against it, not trying to be somebody who you're not, but finding a way to use that pattern, to use that problem to your advantage. Similar to what Ryan Holiday wrote in his book, The Obstacle is the Way. I have an example in the book of an actress, Joan Crawford, from the Hollywood classical period. And she had a very troubled childhood. Didn't know her father, her mother beat her, men abused her, etc. And she managed to take, and it was creating terrible patterns in her life. And she found a way to turn that around, to use all of those disadvantages and make herself a much stronger and very powerful performer by bringing all of the pain in her childhood into her acting, by becoming so focused on the director. Because she had been abused, she was very sensitive to other people. She used that sensitivity to focus on the director and other actors, to be in tune with them. She was very aware of her own weaknesses and her own fragility, and she was able to use that as a strength. So with other people, it's never hopeless. I mean, some people are toxic. I talk a lot of them about toxic character. Those are the kinds of people who can't really change. Their patterns are too ingrained. And we've all met people like that. We've all had to deal with a narcissist who's so deeply self-absorbed. There's nothing that's ever going to save them or pull them out of it. People out there, you can't be naive. There are people out there who are toxic, who are dangerous, who can ruin your life. You hire the wrong person. And I've dealt with in my consulting with a lot of people who hired a business partner who ended up sort of taking the business from them. Very common scenario. You have to not be naive and recognize these toxic types. And often it's best not to try and change them, because trying to change them entangles you in a lot of their drama. But, you know, people have to be able to change themselves. You know, they have to be motivated. You can help illuminate some of their patterns and their problems, but it has to come from within. Yeah. So I try to tackle the question of, why is it that you're not a good listener? And at the root of that is, You're more interested in yourself than you are in the other person. You won't deny that. You will say, oh, no, that's not me. That's not me. I really like people. But the truth is, you're more interested in your own thoughts and your own ideas, things that you're so certain about, your own experiences, than about that other person and what they're saying and what's going on inside them. If you can flip that around, if you can actually feel the motivation to get inside Lewis and get inside his head and his experience, then you will suddenly become a better listener. That's the key, not just telling people to listen more.